This is Dem Boyz, a Dallas Cowboys podcast with Jose Ovalle and Shane Carter.
Hey guys, and welcome to Dem Boyz Podcast, a Dallas Cowboys fan podcast. I'm Joe, and in just a bit, we'll be joined by our co-host Shane Carter. Today, we'll talk about an exciting new hire that the Cowboys coaching staff just made, and we'll dive into free agency and seeing what we want to see and what we think we'll see. And now we're joined by our co-host Shane Carter. How's it going, Shane?
Hey Joe, how you doing, buddy?
I'm pretty good, man. You having a pretty good week?
Yeah, I got my Black Panther tickets, so now I'm just waiting.
Oh man, I gotta get mine. Are you going the Thursday release?
Opening night.
Oh man, I gotta go because then you're gonna end up spoiling it for me.
You know me, I won't say anything to you.
Okay, cool. But I'm gonna be on Twitter. And I'm gonna see all the spoilers. So I gotta watch it before.
You and I have had like a 7-year agreement of no spoilers, no matter what the movie is.
Yeah, especially Marvel movies. Okay, so we got some big news. We got some coaching changes. Specifically, the Cowboys hired Chris Richard from the Seattle Seahawks. I believe he started at the same time as Pete Carroll. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And I think a lot of the Cowboys fans out there, like, as soon as they heard the hire, that he would be both the defensive back coach and the passing game coordinator. I'm not really sure what that is, but good for him. As soon as they heard that, I think the first thing that popped into their mind was, first, Dallas' own Legion of Boom, and two, the possibility of Earl Thomas actually coming to the Cowboys, becoming more and more reality.
Yeah. Do you think he can bring his own or a new version of the Legion of Boom? Maybe bring back the Doomsday defense to the young secondary that we have right here?
Well, now is certainly the time to do that, considering all the young pieces they have. Right now, their best overall player, if you ask me, would probably be Byron Jones. I know he came off a down year, but he's still arguably, their most talented secondary player. As far as what's going to happen next with him, because with this new defensive back coach, there's a possibility that's been tossed around of him becoming the Richard Sherman and going back to cornerback, because he likes those tall, long, athletic cornerbacks, and Byron Jones is about 6'1", 6'2", a little under 200 pounds. And I think teaming up him with Chidobe Awuzie and Jordan Lewis and putting Xavier Woods or whoever at safety would definitely have the possibility of it. As far as Earl Thomas thing happening, he's not going to be free until next year. But there's also been rumors that they might consider cutting him this year.
Yeah.
And as we all remember that game against Seattle, when it was reported that he had talked about "come get me."
Come get me. He told Jason, "Come get me." Yeah. He wants to come home.
Yeah. Now that he has his coach, he might have a chance to come home, because he's going to turn 30 soon, but it doesn't look like he's turning a day over 25. He's still playing like the All-Pro safety that we know. But it might be too expensive for Seattle, but it might be just right for the Cowboys if you want to take a team-friendly discount.
Oh, definitely. They could use the veteran presence in the secondary. And just like you said, yeah, he's going to be 30, but, I mean, this is Earl Thomas, man. This is like a top 5 D-back in the entire league, right? I mean, he's still up there.
This guy is not 30 yet. He's going to be a future Hall of Famer. He is probably still the best free safety in the league. There's other guys in there that can make the argument. But as far as like the Seattle defense kind of like taking a step back, it hasn't been him. He's been the consistent. But if he wants to come back to Texas and the Cowboys are willing to do it, then by all means, because can you imagine a secondary where you have cornerbacks, either Byron Jones or Xavier Woods, whoever's want to switch, Jordan Lewis, Chidobe, and teaming up that safety who didn't switch with Earl Thomas. That secondary would be nasty.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm salivating just thinking about it right now, and especially if we keep up the defensive line on how we have it right now. That's what we're going to be talking about with the free agents right now. So let's go into that. Free agency is coming up. There's a lot of defensive players that we may lose. Who are a couple, let's go back and forth. I'll start. What do you think about, what do you think they're going to do with D-Law? They have to keep him, right? Do you think they're going to give him a a big long contract, or do you think they're just going to franchise him?
They're gonna wait till next year for when all that money they save from Tony Romo finally kicks in. And this year they'll probably franchise tag him, give him the extension next year, because this year the extension that they're looking for would probably be the right guard, Zach Martin.
Yeah, we need him for sure. I think he's
So my guess is
essential
he's
to
gonna
the entire team.
I said they franchise tagged Marcus Lawrence.
Okay. What about Anthony Hitchens? Do you see the Cowboys offering him a new contract, or do you think he'll walk away?
Well, there's a couple problems with this one. One, it looks like Jalen Smith is going to be the future of this linebacking core, as we saw and we talked about actually last week. The last 8 games, we saw him become more and more healthy. What was remarkable is coming off the injury, he played all 16 games. Over the course of the season, he started to get better and better. He started to cover better. He started making more loud movements. He looked more and more like the Jalen Smith we saw at Notre Dame. So Anthony Hitchens, if he came back, he probably designated to a back and forth role with the mic. And also that because they used the franchise tag on DeMarcus Lawrence, and I'm guessing they're going to try to get an extension on Zach Martin, he might get a better offer somewhere else. Now, if I had to guess, if I was to guess today where Anthony Hitchens would end up, I would say he follows Matt Eberflus and goes to Indiana or Indianapolis.
All right, I can definitely see that. I mean, I'm a big fan of Hitchens, but if the Cowboys end up drafting a linebacker, I mean, we could easily replace him, I guess. Well, not easily replace him. I mean, he killed it this season.
He was arguably their best linebacker this year because of the health of Sean Lee and the growing pains of Jalen Smith.
What about David Irving? Do you want the Cowboys to retain him? Honestly, on this one, I'll kind of give my take first. I think we can draft a player to replace him, but do you think? I mean, he was pretty valuable when he played. You know, I mean, he's a game wrecker. But what do you think? Do you think the Cowboys will let him walk as well?
Well, what makes him so valuable is he can play both the left and right defensive end as well as a 3-tech. We saw him this year as a starting 3-tech next to Malik Collins, and he was a borderline Pro Bowler for a while. I think he had 7 sacks on the season, and that great production was overshadowed by the great season that Marcus Lawrence had. And you talk about drafting a guy. I don't know if there's necessarily a defensive end in the draft that's right now better than David Irving is right now. They drafted Taco Charlton, who's almost a mirror image of David Irving in terms of size and athleticism. But, I would hope they would keep David Irving. If I had to guess, I would say that, because he is a restricted free agent, I would say they would put a tender on him, maybe like a first or second round tender, and they would kind of force a team to consider, okay, is he worth that draft pick? Because remember, if they decide he is, and they give him, and the team offers him enough money to where they pick him up, they give up that draft pick. So it's really not just a matter of can the Cowboys keep him? It's is another team willing to take him right now?
Okay, that's fair. Now let's transition to free agents that the Cowboys may acquire, because I mean, can you think of any other players on the team right now that you would want to keep? The only other one I can think of is Alfred Morris as a security blanket for Zeke, but I mean the other free agents I don't think are a big deal. They can be replaced pretty easily.
See, I actually think that Rod Smith did enough to where they made Alfred Morris expendable, and also we'll get into who I think can actually fully replace Alfred Morris here in a little bit. But the exclusive rights free agent, Rico Gathers, he'll come back. We should finally see him. I pegged him as the next Antonio Gates. And we saw in the preseason what he could do. But if it weren't for that neck injury, we would have seen some of him this year. Next year, he needs to play. They need to see what they have in him. They need to give Dak that 6'8" basketball player that we know can be a potential star. Aside from him, another underrated, under the radar signing would be 2 guys. One is LP Ladouceur, who's been like a real consistent force on the special team as a long snapper. The long snapper doesn't get a lot of love. But
hasn't he been with the team for like 10 years?
Yeah, he's been with them. It seems like forever. Yeah, but him and Chris Jones and Dan Bailey all seem to have a rapport down, and you don't really want to mess up any sort of chemistry on special teams because you can lose games on special teams. So you want to keep everything intact there. And one that's like kind of one to look at just because of the controversy around it is Bryce Butler, the wide receiver. I talked about how if he had qualified, he would have had the most yards per reception in the league. You have to have 30 receptions. He didn't have that. But what was odd about him was when he appeared on the Colin Cowherd show and Undisputed, both on FS1, he talked about his relationship with Dak and relationship with Dez and how he believed he should be a starter. But now it comes down to, do the Cowboys believe he should be a starter? Do the Cowboys believe that that they're better off with him than Dez Bryant? That's going to come down to a lot of factors there, because he's also an unrestricted free agent that showed flashes of being a really good receiver, but he's probably, to this point in his career, been kind of an underachiever. I don't know how you can get guys 200 pounds, run a 4.3 in the 40, and get so many chances, but still not really live up to the kind of potential that you have.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's a starter on this team. I guess you could argue it. Maybe start him over Terrence Williams, or maybe put him on the outside and move Dez in the slot. But I just don't think that he'll stay, or I don't think the Cowboys are going to want to pay him what he's going to end up wanting. But, maybe he doesn't get the offer that he's looking for on another team, and maybe he just ends up, staying, which would be okay. I mean, I don't mind the depth. So, but let's, like I said, let's transition to free agents outside the Cowboys and who we want them to acquire. Let's do 2 players, and if you want to add more after that, that's fine. Let's do one that is realistic and one dream pickup. Okay. I'll let you go first on your realistic one.
All right, my realistic pickup is kind of under the radar one. One I don't know if necessarily get away, but it's New England Patriots running back Dion Lewis. He's been a good solid runner as well as a receiver. And while the Cowboys have always had that number one guy, they like to have that third down back, that receiving back, that guy at the backfield that can create mismatches against linebackers, kind of like a Lance Dunbar. And Dion Lewis would probably protect him from using a draft pick on somebody. He'll be 27 when season starts, and he's actually kind of a under the radar free agent that I really like a lot.
Okay, I can see that. I mean, that'll help Dak out a lot. So maybe bring him in on third down or whatever. But that'd be a pretty good one. I wouldn't mind seeing that. I'm on the defense side, and I want to bring in a star Latulele. Did I say his name right? Latulele? Is that how you say it? Latulele. Okay, cool. I mean, I just picture him in a Cowboys uniform, with that hair and everything. He just looked amazing. Yeah, exactly. But I think he'd be great, and he'd just be, start day one. I mean, of course, right? You can move Collins over, and he'll just be your run stuffer and let Collins do what he's made to do and rush the passer. I think it would be a perfect fit for the Cowboys. What do you think?
Well, I think the key word there is fit, and he's played the one tech, pretty much his whole time in Carolina. He's been that run stuffer, that guy in the middle, and they definitely need it. But if you ask me, if the Carolina Panthers, who have become known for their defense, don't want to keep somebody, he might not be as good as we all peg. If you're talking about like a realistic defensive tackle, Dontari Poe might be a nice option there, because he might actually, one, cost less, and two, might be the better pickup.
I was gonna bring him up too. I just really like to say Star Latulele, but either one I'd be fine with. And if we draft a certain D tackle in the draft, hint hint, I think he could learn a lot from him. Okay, so now my dream one. I'll start first on this one. You can do the second one. My dream pickup. I don't know how it would happen, but I would love to get Sammy Watkins on this team. I think it would open up the offense back to where it can be explosive. We would kill in the play action. I mean, if you're gonna put 8 in the box and you got Sammy Watkins on the outside, you better have a really good, safety that can cover the entire field, because that dude can fly. What do you think?
Well, the only thing that hurt Sammy Watkins from being a star was health. Every time he's on the field and showing his stuff, we've seen, the Sammy Watkins we saw at Clemson, but every time he has a chance, he ends up, pulling a hamstring or whatever, and he isn't able to do anything with it. Now, if we're talking about receivers, the best receiver in this upcoming free agency might be Allen Robinson, coming off an ACL injury.
Yeah, that could be a low-key one. That's very true. I love AR-15 last year, and I know he kind of went under the radar because he got hurt. But yeah, that could be a big one.
Actually, but he's not my dream pickup wide receiver. My
Okay.
dream pickup wide receiver is the one who runs the best routes and has the best hands of all the free agent wide receivers, and that's Jarvis Landry. Now, essentially, he's a guy who's going to play slot, so he probably either kick Cole Beasley out or you make him be an outside receiver. But what he does is he runs cool, crisp routes, and he catches the ball every single time. He doesn't drop a pass, and that's what Dak needs, is a guy who will run the routes, get separation, and do not drop a pass. The problem with his separation, though, is that he's not very fast. He's got east and west speed. He doesn't have a lot of north and south speed. I think that's what hurt. That's what kind of hurts him as being an outside threat. But if we're talking about rebuilding the receiving core, I'd start with a guy, one, who's a Pro Bowler, two, they can afford potentially, and three, a guy who does not drop passes, which Dak desperately needs.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that either. I'd probably pick up his jersey day one, to be honest. But I saw a rumor that he wants to become roomies again with his buddy Odell up in New York. So hopefully that doesn't happen.
I would rather him be the guy who plays against Odell twice a year. They can be buddies in the offseason, but I'd like for them to go against her twice a year.
All right, so that'll wrap up this episode of the Dem Boyz podcast. Next week we'll be recapping the Senior Bowl. I know Shane's already been looking at practices on that, so I'll check it out as well. I'll actually watch the actual game. As for practices, I don't know if I'll be able to do that, but that's what we got Shane for, so don't worry, guys. Shane, where can they find you?
On Twitter, at Shane Carter TX, capital S, Shane, capital C, Carter, capital T, TX.
Awesome. You can find me on Twitter, at A Morning Cup of Joe, and make sure to follow Dem Boyz Podcast on Twitter, at Dem Boyz Podcast. You can like us on Facebook as well. We post a lot of stuff on Facebook at Dem Boyz Podcast. And then you could go to the Podbean website. We have a website. You just look for Dem Boyz Podcast on Google. It'll be the first one that pops up. That way you can subscribe to the podcast. Make sure to rate us on any podcast. Make sure to rate us on any podcast app that you use, especially on iTunes. It'll help us a lot. And leave us a review so we can start climbing the ladder up on those rankings. But as always, have a good one, guys, and we'll see you next week.
See you.
This is Dem Boyz, a Dallas Cowboys podcast with Jose Ovalle and Shane Carter. This is Dem Boyz, a Dallas Cowboys podcast with Jose Ovalle and Shane Carter.